So coming back to your spiritual stuff, that's not the righteous BYU path, right? So tell us about how you were thinking about spirituality when you made that decision, and then just go from there on your spiritual journey.
Yeah. So, high school was great. And, obviously when that comes to an end, you have to figure out what you're doing with your life. And, as all Mormon boys know, there's a rite of passage that has to be crossed. So, and that pretty much every boy is, especially in Utah, is very much pressured into going on a mission. It's required, expected, and I was no different than that. I don't know how interesting this will be, but basically, another part of my journey has been that I'm a chronic insomniac, like just a clinical insomniac, like real deal, not like, I had a rough night's sleep, more like, I would go to labs and have diodes strapped to my head and like studying my brain.
From like age 12, right?
Yeah, and like...
so like average how many hours of sleep a night?
It varied. Sometimes I'd be like get 8 hours, other times I wouldn't sleep at all. I'd go for 4 or 5 days without sleeping, and it was a nightmare. I was on every kind of medication you can possibly imagine, like Klonopin, Trazodone, Clonazepam, some of the stuff Michael Jackson was on when he died.
Are those benzos?
Yeah, benzos.
Okay.
Which in hindsight, it's kind of, interesting.
Pretty intense.
Because those can be highly addictive.
Very high, and I struggled with that a little bit, but I always changed medications when that happened, and it was a defining characteristic of my life for sure. And it's
Do you think it's just biological? Was it anxiety?
I'm sure that if someone in the future could study my brain, they'd see the part that's like, oh yeah, that's something's wrong there. It's
okay.
Yeah, and he has a family member that
my mom is a very bad sleeper too, so I think I just kind of got that plus an extra dose.
And was it the type where you would just play guitar when you couldn't sleep, or would you just sit there and stare at the walls?
I was told not to do that because that would just
exacerbate it.
Yeah. So okay. I really tried to tried to do it right, but
so
nothing was working.
As a youth, that would be hard.
It was honestly debilitating. And it's like everyone kind of knew, like, oh, Daniel's not going to make it to the first half of school today. It's like my teachers knew. It's like they'd like sometimes they were nice to give me passing grades because like I'm not going to be there. Like all my friends would joke like, don't expect Daniel to be there till seminary was 4th period for me, and like even then I could barely make it.
So you weren't making straight A's.
No,
not a great student.
No, I was fine. I ended with like a 3.2 or something.
But you're super bright, so I mean that's.
I don't know, but
yeah. And you went by Daniel at the time.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, I've transformed into Wayne.
There's
somehow.
3 Daniels in the band, so it's kind of become Wayne to a lot of people.
Right.
Got it.
So yeah, I did a lot of. We tried to, me and my parents really tried to figure out. I definitely had really dark thoughts, really depressed thoughts. Not very suicidal, but I certainly had thoughts about it. Just when you don't sleep for that long, you're just not yourself, and and then I had to get on depression medication, which of course makes the sleeping pills act weird, and like it was kind of a mess, and so it kind of ebbed and flowed as far as its severity, but it was tough. And so from that I sort of had an out, and all my priesthood leaders knew about it, my bishop knew about it. It's like, so in a way I had a bit of an out, as far as they call it honorably excused from service.
Oh, okay.
And then there's those that aren't honorably excused, which is a different matter. And so I kind of had an out, but it was only kind of like, for those that maybe don't know, a mission is a really big deal for a Mormon boy, and especially, I don't know, probably everywhere, but especially in Utah, it's sort of like if you don't go, it's like you dodged the draft.
Yeah.
It's kind of seen with that. It's like you're a draft dodger. You didn't go on a mission. There's 2 tiers of men. So there's those that went on missions and those that didn't.
Yeah, and women won't want to date you.
Right.
They won't want to marry you.
Yeah, we're told, that you shouldn't want to date someone who didn't go on a mission.
So I had that sort of on me, and like, what is this honorable excuse really? It's like, it's still draft dodging to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got, I did have some pressure, from my family and from my community, like that sort of unfelt pressure that it just wasn't good enough. Like my legs weren't broken. Like, it wasn't like this super obvious thing where I was like, guys, I can't go. It's like, who's going to believe someone that says they can't sleep? It's like, oh, you can't sleep, huh? That's tough.
Right,
Cry me a river.
Right.
So it's like, so I just me and my parents decided that we would sort of not put in the doctor's notes telling me that I'm definitely not ready to go on a mission, and kind of not put those in the mission papers. And so, talked to my bishop about it and just said, we're going to rely on faith for you to be healed and for you to be able to, get up early every morning and do this thing. And I was with it too. I was like, all right, that sounds good to me. Let's try it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you decided to go.
I decided to go. And so I was called to serve in Montana, Billings, Montana.
I thought you were going to say you didn't go.
I did go.
Okay. No. So Billings, okay.
Wait for it.
Billings. No, but I didn't even know that you were going to apply. So
yeah.
Billings, Montana.
So I was called to Billings. I went to the MTC and I lasted 5 days.
It's a 3-week experience.
Yeah.
5 days in.
5 days.
Talk about what happened.
So
what was that like?
Well, yeah. So I don't actually talk about this at all. So this is, but it's good. This is good. And then
I don't even know if you fully told me the whole story yourself. I've kind of heard it from family members.
Really? Oh my goodness. So dramatic.
Oh.
I guess it does have some emotion for me still. I don't know. It's not like I'm like going to break down or anything, but
we'll see.
We'll see. Thanks. But yeah, so I lasted 5 days. I went 4 days without sleeping. It was absolutely horrific for me. On the 4th day, I went to the doctor and said, look, I need something. Like, I'm going to go crazy. And so he gave me a pill for sleep. I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember the name of it. I took it, slept a couple hours on it, and then woke up that morning in a paranoid state, like 100% convinced that I was in prison and that there was something diabolical going on.
So like a psychotic break.
A bit of a psychotic break.
Yeah.
So I just freaked out and I put my name tag in my pocket and ran out of the MTC. And which for people that don't know, you can't it's not like it's on lockdown. It's not a prison, but it's not like there's any gates on anything. But like walking out is also not like a tiny deal. It's
huge.
It's a huge deal to leave. It's like, maybe you just get sent home. If you leave, it's like, you're not serious about this. Like, we don't know. You just go home.
It's emotional lockdown. It's not physical lockdown, but it's emotional lockdown.
Right. And so I just darted. I was freaking out. I think I went on
4 days without sleep. That's
yep.
How many days? It's a certain amount of days you die when you don't get enough sleep.
I think the record is a guy that did like 14 days or something.
But I mean,
but he was never the same.
It starts to ruin your brain, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
you just bolted.
I bolted, and I remember I crossed University Parkway, and there's a gas station right there, right on the campus, right across from the stadium. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like the Chevron gas station.
Yeah.
So
I've gassed my car up there many times.
So I went in there. I probably looked so suspicious. The sweaty 19-year-old skinny guy with the name tag, like it's a shadow of his name tag in his pocket. Just like, hey, can I use your phone? So I must have looked crazy enough that he just gave him the quarter. So I just took a quarter or two from the guy that was nice enough to give it to me. And I used the payphone, called my dad, and said, I'm out. I'm done. Nope. No way. No how. This is not happening. And he said, slow down, son. Just let's relax. I'm going to come there. I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go back to the MTC. And I freaked out. I said, we're not going back to the MTC. I will go up this mountain right now. I will walk up this mountain. I'm not going back.
Wow.
And I was really, truly not myself.
Now, was it all that you weren't sleeping? Or was there cognitive dissonance about faith stuff or confidence or like the spiritual stuff? Or do you even know?
I don't know.
But you weren't like thinking of
I wasn't like
truth claim stuff or like
that wasn't the forefront for me. Like I like you go like for anyone that's not quite sure about their mission yet. Not quite sure about Mormonism yet. You go on your mission, and that's really everyone knows that's where guys really get firm.
Yeah,
and that's when like they come back.
And some say in 2019 the missionary program is more about helping Mormon youth get committed to the church than it actually is about converting people.
I'd say that's a solid argument.
Yeah.
But
just knowing your personality, I suspect that on a subconscious level, you have a hard time telling people what to believe or trying to convince them really. I think you're pretty open to other people's opinions and stuff. And
the idea of telling people what's true and what they need to do. You think that was part of it?
Do you think you were nervous?
Well, I haven't had a ton of like 4-day experiences with no sleep before, so
there's just the medical. You're saying it's probably mostly
I'm saying like there could be an element to that because like those 4-day bouts of no sleep
Oh.
didn't happen that often. When they did, it was usually something else was going wrong. So I don't doubt that
You
that
don't
played a
know.
part. I certainly didn't want to tell other people to do, but I was there to get my testimony so that I could do that. And so I wasn't like completely against the whole thing. It was just like, I was there to get the confidence so I could tell people what to do. And, so I was planning on doing that. But yeah, so that was intense.
So
So
you said I'm running up the mountain.
I said I'm
going back.
I ain't going back. And my dad was like, "What are you talking about? You crazy person. That is my son. Who are you?"
I'm a hill person now.
But that's like a moment. Like it's probably better to have never gone on a mission than to have gone on a mission. I'm talking socially,
Right.
Than to have gone on a mission and came home early, especially 5 days into your mission.
Perhaps.
So like you're facing in Mormon culture potentially a lot of humiliation of like, wait, we just had your farewell.
Maybe we donated money. to
Yeah,
this
yeah.
cause,
And now you're bailing and you have to go back to your ward home, your family, your parents are embarrassed, your siblings are embarrassed. That is an over, and people are like, oh, first world problems, like poor white.
Yeah.
But it's emotionally,
Yeah.
that's a non-trivial thing to leave the MTC 5 days into it.
It was. Yeah. It was
Socially.
I totally agree with that. And so my dad came and got me, and we went back. And I was like, oh. It's like, son, you're gonna go back. You're gonna face this like a man.
You did go to the MTC.
I went back. He's like, you're gonna pack up your bags. You're gonna get all your stuff. You're gonna leave with your head held high.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God. All
Again, great person.
what a
So I
dad.
said, okay. And,
What a dad.
and so I went there, and after I gathered up all my stuff, and I met with the MTC president before I left, and I don't remember the president's name at the time, but I have to say that overall my experience with priesthood leaders, from the bishop to the stake president to this MTC president, was overwhelmingly positive and amazing. Honestly, really, really, like I think each of them did the best they could. MTC president didn't try and shame me, didn't try and make me feel bad about not going, that I wasn't a man, or that I was, he totally understood. He like saw the notes and was like, okay, this makes, like, yes, I understand that why you shouldn't be here. Consider yourself honorably excused from this, and you're going to go on and still live a great life. And I remember expressing to him my trepidation about the shame I would feel going back, and like, should I really be leaving? Like, maybe I can do this. It's like, I was really anxious about going back like this. And he looked at me and he said, I'll never forget, he said, if you knew how little other people thought of you, you wouldn't care what they thought of you. It's like, live your life. It's, like, other people are so concerned about themselves. It's like, you're going to be a couple synapses in their brain, and then you're going to go away in their brain.
What a great answer.
I know. So
priesthood leaders for the win.
Yeah.
yes. And so, it's like Mormons have a good reputation in the world for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like everyone says, oh yeah, there's a Mormon at work and he's a really nice guy. It's like, I think there's really a lot of good people in Mormonism, and my experience proves that there's a lot of really good people. So
That's so great.
So, but like you said, like, as great as that was, and I can't imagine.
Had you been to Berklee already, or this is pre-Berklee?
Pre-Berklee.
After UVU.
Yeah, before UVU. Like, I was like going to try and go. Well, I did a little bit of UVU,
Okay.
but
And what year was this that you went to the MTC? Just so I can kind of put it in a chronology.
4?
2004, maybe. Yeah, 4 or 5. Maybe
Okay.
4.
So this is right around when I moved to Utah and started Mormon Storage.
Nice.
Right around
Wow,
that time.
that's crazy.
No idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, so I graduated in 03 from high school. Did this mission thing in 04.
And the American folk are the cavemen, right?
Cavemen.
I have to say that.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's significant.
We're better than our mascot, though. And we're only the caveman because there's a Timpano's Cave, you know
Right.
Timpano's Cave.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cave up American Fork Canyon.
Yeah, check it
But
out.
man, an unfortunate mascot. But we do our best with it. So go caveman.
Okay.
AF Pride all the way.
So 2003, you graduated from high school.
Yeah, 2003.
And you would have been in the MTC that same year?
04.
04, next year.
I did a little bit of college.
Okay,
and
04.
I was
So-
like, I'm going to try and do this thing. And so I did that. And like you said, like, I can't imagine what it would have been like because there's a lot of boys that go out and it doesn't work for them for whatever reason. It's like, whatever, that's like they had sex with their girlfriend and they have to come back. And it's like
Yeah.
the shame of that. And then there's 500 people
Who know their business.
who know why you came back.
Right.
It's like, how can you come back from that as like a young man and feel like you're not a second class citizen? So
you're not just dealing with the fact that you came home, you're dealing with the fact that everybody's wondering why you came home.
Yes.
Or assuming.
Speculating.
And
you're just sort of like, you go to church and you just feel this like shame, like you're just like, and maybe like maybe it's self-imposed.
Oh yeah, nobody means it.
Yeah, no one means
kind.
It. And it's like it comes from inside too. That you feel this like, man, I'm garbage. Like
that's how you felt?
Oh, absolutely. Like
going back to church, you'd attend your home ward.
Yep, felt like I was basically like I said, a draft dodger, like a coward, or a failure of some kind.
And I mean, I didn't meet him till 4 years later, but I still felt like you felt that, that negativity towards yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, even now, a quote unquote rock star, and it's like even now
pretty successful,
pretty successful, and even now, there's times where I still feel like that failed missionary, and so. To anyone watching that has had that experience happen to them, just, I feel for you and I love you and it doesn't define you. And
say that quote again from
that if you knew how little other people thought of you, you wouldn't care what they thought of you.
So good.
And it's true. It's true. Live your own life.
Everybody's got their own problems.
Absolutely.
Everybody cares about their own life the most.
And like, it's like from a women's perspective, a women's perspective on this, it's like, you're taught that your eye should be on the ball for return missionaries, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what you look for, is someone who's a return missionary. At least that's what you're taught. I mean, luckily when I met you, it was the last thing on my mind, but in a different life, you would have been out.
Yeah. So,
right. Okay.
So yeah. So then I came back and just said, I'm going to go to Boston. I'm just going to change the scenery here and try and still live a good life. And
did you, okay, when you had, I'm sorry, I love this kind of stuff. I geek out. So by the time you graduate and you were probably known as like a great musician in your high school, right? Mm-hmm. Was everybody like, you're going to be a rock star someday? Or was it just like, oh, you're a good musician? Or how much
did you have a title in the yearbook?
Because like do the basketball equivalent, some 7-footer that like is all state. Everybody's like, you're going to go to the pros. Where was the hype around you and your own personal expectations by the time you're, becoming an adult?
Oh, well, I mean, I was voted most likely to be a rock star in my high school class. So.
Those things are accurate.
How much more official can you get?
Are you joking or
no,
you said okay?
I was, but
oh, you were? Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I was good. I was proficient on my instrument, and I think I was known as being pretty good. But
were you humble, known, as you could see?
Yeah. Were you known even bigger than American Fork? Like, were there Battle of the Bands were you known regionally or statewide as a musician?
Maybe, but not like, I wasn't like some prodigy that was like, ooh.
Okay.
I was just good. I was proficient and good.
That's good, because people like think, oh, well, I wasn't maybe of that level when I was young, so maybe I don't have a chance.
Right. Oh yeah, no. I was not like some prodigy. I worked really hard to get where I was and practiced a lot, and if I was good, it was just because of that. It wasn't because of any inherent genius on my part. But
you didn't carry some community expectation that you've got to make it big. Everybody's expecting you to make it big, or
maybe a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit of that. Maybe just for myself and for my family. Like, it's like I don't want to waste the money.
Right. I mean, also he's extremely humble and won't really talk that highly of himself, but he did get a scholarship to school, and it's a pretty big deal, I'd say.
So if your grades weren't great, how do you get a scholarship to a place like Berklee? What do you have to do?
You have to play for them.
You go there?
Yeah.
And you bring your guitar?
Yeah. And you say, watch this.
What was that like? Do you remember what you played, and what was that like?
Yeah, I played West Montgomery.
What is that?
It's jazz.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 100% nerded out on jazz at that point, so I just played jazz.
And like, you're some little boy from a little Utah town auditioning at freaking one of the premier music universities in the world. What was that like? And what was their response?
It was crazy, nerve-wracking, and it was, I never sweated so much in my entire life. It's like, you keep everyone in the hallway, then you call you in one by one, and you sit in front of 3 people, and they're just looking at you, and hands are shaking. It was a blur, but it was. I'm glad I did it. Definitely saved my parents a lot of money and
getting a scholarship.
Yeah.
So you must have impressed them.
Yeah.
They're
just giving these things away now, John.
Did they give you any feedback? Like, whoa, like we haven't seen this before.
No, it's nothing like that.
Okay.
No, it's just thank you.
Okay. But you got a scholarship to Berklee. That's amazing.
And then I went to Berklee, and
that's got to feel a little bit better than like having failed the MTC in people's mind. Did that help restore your confidence a little bit?
No.
Or, oh, wow.
No.
Why not?
In that regard.
No, I just, I don't look at myself that way. I don't know. I don't know why, John.
Okay.
But I went to Berklee, and maybe this is why, when I went to Berklee, I realized that I'm actually not that great.
Right.
Or else I'm just great, but compared to these people, I'm not great anymore.
Your peers were...
Oh, they're amazing. Like, it's like there's 1,000 me's running around, or 500 me's that are great at guitar.
Again, like John Mayer.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, cool. You know, I thought I was something, and, you know, maybe I should have just stayed the big fish in American Fork and instead of being a little fish here. But obviously, that's what you got to do. You got to have people to push you and have a community that is better than you so you can improve yourself. So that was eye-opening. And just, I think culturally, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Boston is different than Utah County. Just a little bit.
So what's that like, the Utah boy going to Boston?
Boston was a slap in the face. Culturally, it's like a different country. You might as well just say Boston is different. Like the East Coast vibe, how more different can you get? Like the closed off, sort of like pseudo-atheistic, like intellectual sphere. It's like, you know, the phone book is this thick just for colleges, and yet there's one singles ward in the entire one young single adults ward.
Yeah, how long did it take to
Is
get
it
to
the
church?
Harvard? Is the MIT, Harvard, Boston University,
all
Boston
that.
College?
Yep.
There's
one ward.
Okay.
And so it's
and
like,
were you attending?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I was still in, and still, you know, was on the program.
Okay.
But even then, it's like when I wouldn't date. I was not like Alex. I wasn't interested in dating at all for a lot of reasons, but also probably the biggest one is just like, you know, I don't want to have the conversation about how I didn't go on a mission. And if I was asked about it, I probably even lied about it a couple times. It's like, yeah, I went on a mission because, you know, I technically
You did.
5 days.
And you were called to the...
Counting it. And just don't ask any more questions about it. You know,
Change subject.
Anyway, so how are you? So, you know, I didn't want to open myself up to that. So I wasn't interested in girls at all, really.
Oh.
And I practiced for 8 hours a day in my room, in my dorm. Probably didn't have the most quintessential college experience. You know, no fraternities or crazy keggers happened. It was just very much just going to church and then studying and practicing a lot and trying to improve. So
how did your sleep evolve? And then separate question. Sorry to ask them both at the same time. Some people would settle into that, like, now I'm a small fish in a big pond, with feelings of insecurity, and I'm not good enough, and I can't make this. I want to know how your sleep evolved, and then I want to know, how did you psychologically settle into, like, I'm going to stick this out, I'm going to do it, even if I'm not the best, even if I'm just one of many, I'm going to still settle in and grow, without letting your insecurities overwhelm you. Yeah,
well, luckily I had a bunch of doctor's notes that said I could do early registration, so all my classes started at like 1. And so if I didn't get a good night's sleep, I could kind of compensate for it. And so they're a lot more lenient than the MTC was in that regard. You know, you can have a bunch of missionaries sleeping until 1 in the morning.
Right.
That wouldn't be any good for anyone. So
1 in the afternoon, right?
Right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Apologies. It was fine. It's something I struggled with then. I struggle with it now. I have nights where I don't sleep at all, and it's gotten better, a little bit better with age for some reason. But it's still something that lives with me. It's like our first album, Night Visions, Imagine Dragons album is called Night Visions, based solely a lot like on my insomnia. It's kind of like, and Dan also like wrote a lot of the music himself at night, and so it kind of became this album that was written sort of at nighttime. So Night Visions, so it kind of harkens to that. So it's still something that lives with me even now, and you just have the good days and the bad days, and you deal with it. I've learned how to deal with it, and you know.
It kind of lends itself to late shows and kind of made it work for you.
I was born to be a trashy musician.
Trashy.
No, but what was the other question?
The confidence, like, how did you overcome whatever insecurities might be around being a small fish, after being a big fish in a small pond, becoming a small fish in a big pond? How do you survive that and not let the insecurities overwhelm you?
Well, I certainly wasn't going to fail at 2 things in a row.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was determined to finish it, and my parents were very supportive, and they came out and visited me and make sure I was okay. And yeah, I was bound and determined to do it.
And you genuinely love music.
Oh yeah, it's like, if I can't make this, I can't make anything. I mean, it's like I got to eat, drink, sleep music all the time and be among like-minded people all day long. So it was incredible. I love my experience, and it's also where I happened to meet Ben and Platts, who are the current bass player and drummer in our band. I met them. We had a class together, and
so Ben, what's his first name?
Ben McKee and
Ben McKee.
Daniel
Plays
Ben McKee plays bass, and Daniel Platzman plays drums.
He's the third Daniel.
Correct. And so,
but he goes by Platts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Met them there, and
where are they from?
They're from Atlanta. Platts is from Atlanta, and Ben's from near Oakland in a little place called Forestville.
Okay, so you meet them in class.
Meet them in class, and they are hilariously different than anything I'm used to. Like, it's like it was honestly kind of refreshing, because they were about as far away as religion as one can be. I remember Ben said his family motto was that better a church burned than a drop of liquor spilt.
Whoa!
It's like
whoa!
Yeah, so that's like, you know, if you knew Ben, you'd love it even more. But you know, and Platts wasn't particularly religious at all either. So it was really eye-opening to me that they saw this like super like, you know, white bread like Mormon kid from Utah, and just didn't care at all about that stuff. Like, they didn't care at all. They just wanted to be my friend. They were very friendly, inviting people. I didn't know that I would call them later and ask them to be in the band. That just came later, but it just goes to show you that, you know, it went to show me at least that, wow, like, people are just nice. I think people might just be nice everywhere.
Not just Mormons.
It's not, yeah, it's not an exclusively Mormon thing.
Yeah. So did you guys play in bands together, jazz bands, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we played together. Yeah.
So what did you do playing with them at Berklee?
We were in jazz. Played a lot of jazz together. We played other stuff too together, but mostly jazz stuff, and which is kind of funny now that we're playing rock music. But we were all super deep into jazz and kind of nerding out, and you know, this kind of stuff that most people don't want to listen to be honest.
Have you seen the Ken Burns jazz documentary?
I have. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was nerdy and like kind of like almost like math. It was like very like heady, kind of progressive prog jazz.
Does that mean you like Genesis and like?
Way nerdier than that.
Like, yeah. But that influences that kind of prog rock stuff, right?
Yeah. And we loved it, and we love that kind of music, and we still like it. It's just, you know, it would kind of clear a room. So kind of thought, okay,
it wasn't the way to get famous.
It's not like people that love it, but it's not for absolutely everybody. And so it's like, pop music is fun to play.
Is Fish influenced by that stuff?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I mean, it's still. I mean, I would say like Steely Dan is maybe even more that way, but. Way even just keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, so a lot of jazz playing at Berklee.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And graduated.
Like with honors or just normal, or like by the time you're done with Berklee, how are you feeling about your career, and what were kind of people's perceptions or
after Berklee?
Yeah. Well, you know, as you're finishing there, where your teacher's like, "You've got a gift, you're going to be great." Like,
I had a lot of teachers take me under their wing, and I had a lot of really great professors that believed in me, and really cool experience. Not every teacher is going to be your best friend, but I did have the fortune of having really good role models, music wise. So
when you finish, your mind is what's going to happen next.
Yeah, what's going to happen next? So I went back to Utah. I was like making some kind of game plan, and one of my best friends growing up, Andrew Tolman, was playing with this guy that was at BYU. You know, Andrew's a really accomplished drummer, and was sort of like the drum equivalent of what I was in high school, you know, was like...
Is this 2009, 2010?
This was 2009. Yeah, probably.
2009 or 10.
So I knew Andrew already, but then he was playing with Dan Reynolds, and Dan was at BYU.
So Dan was in a band at BYU?
Yeah, he was playing, doing open mic nights. I think he was in bands. Yeah.
Okay.
He was, and Andrew and Dan were in a band together. And so
Was this after Dan's mission?
after Dan's mission.
After he goes to Nebraska.
Mhm.
That's where Tyler Glenn went as well.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back.
Yep.
And he's doing the velour thing basically.
Doing the velour thing. Yes.
At BYU, but
Yep.
not with Imagine Dragons. Just with other
Right.
other musicians.
Well, I guess there was a
The
iteration
original
of him. The original iteration I was not part of.
It's a very different band, but it was Imagine
But the name,
Dragons.
pretty much all that's the same was the name.
Okay, so
But-
Dan had been performing for a year or two
Mhm.
with some other guys.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then I came back and somehow, ended up playing with, just was like, I really believed in Dan. When I saw him sing and play, I thought, there was something there. Just from the first time I saw him, I thought there was something special.
What'd you
there?
You saw him at the velour the first time he performed?
Yep.
Did he perform any of the songs that have been recorded today?
Oh, absolutely not.
None of them?
No.
Okay, so this is all
way, way before.
Okay,
way early,
okay.
Yeah.
So you just saw him as a performer and
Yeah. Yep. He had good lyricist, good songwriter, but more than anything, just really good stage presence.
okay.
He just commanded that. It's like that thing that you can't create, you can't fake, and you can't make. It's like either you have that stage charisma or you don't.
It's Jagger.
It's the Jagger.
Totally.
Jagger swagger.
And Dan had it at BYU.
Even then he had it.
Yeah.
And a very commanding sort of thing. It's like, not that the songs were anything like super special, but like it wasn't about that. It was about, I saw a lot of potential in that. And so I was excited about it.
And you had been at Berklee, so you knew vocalists, right?
Yeah. So he had a lot of talent.
Okay.
And so I joined the band.
How'd you convince him to take you on, or did you have to?
Andrew was like, "Hey, I know a guitar player. He's really good, or whatever." And Dan was like, "Cool. Hey," he's Dan. He's like, it's like this. He was like this, lanky, like white jean wearing, super happy, just like happy-go-lucky guy that's just like really friendly and like, "What's up, man? Nice to meet you." And we played together, and it was just like, it was really easy, and he's a really affable guy and easy to be around, and it just made sense.
So there's this. Apparently, George Harrison's quite younger than Paul and John, and there's this moment I remember from their book or whatever books where, like, Paul brings George to play for John, right?
Right.
And it's almost like a little audition. Did you have a moment like that where you like had to play for a little bit so Dan could evaluate your chops, or was it not that formal?
I didn't really think about it like that, but probably I'm sure he was thinking like, good, huh? Okay, sure, let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure, but I didn't think I wasn't too worried about it, or it wasn't in the forefront of my mind that I had to audition for it or anything. But
So it just naturally happened.
just naturally happened. Yeah.
It wasn't like,
It
can I
was
be in your
still so
band? or-
early. I feel
was
like
so
it was
early.
still so early
Yeah,
that
it was all very liquid and.
Okay, so you started playing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you kick out another guitarist? Like
I did not personally kick out.
Was there a
I wanna be
did you
very clear.
displace someone?
There might have been some displacing. I don't,
But that's not your fault.
I want to be clear. I had absolutely nothing to do with that process whatsoever.
I just stepped in
I came in.
go on record.
I think I just stepped in.
Yeah,
something.
no, I came in after, and was
he did
like,
not swoop.
I was no. I'm not a swooper.
Now, Ringo booted a drummer. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like that when a new joins, sometimes
I think
somebody leaves.
they decided as a band that they wanted to change it up, and then and brought me in after. So
That's hard.
But I think everyone's still really friendly even now. It's not like this like awkward weird thing. I think everyone involved is happy with the way things have gone. It's not. There's very little weirdness there now, but so yeah, that was what I did. I was kind of all in on that, and then I moved to Vegas. And
How long did you play at BYU?
Not long at all. I mean, really
Like less than a year.
When I officially joined the band, we basically moved to Vegas immediately.
Okay, so
Yeah.
like Dan was waiting. Like, what was it
Dan
about you
dropped out,
joining?
yeah.
He dropped out of BYU.
He dropped out, yeah.
For a second time. Like he was kicked out of BYU once,
Right.
and he dropped out.
For
What
shame.
was it about you coming that made that was like, okay, it's time to go to Vegas? Like, what was that?
I think Dan. I don't think school's working for Dan much, at the time. And maybe part of him felt like it's something he could always come back and do. He could always come back and do school, but like his first dream has always been to be a musician. But
it sounds like he said, I found my guitarist.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Come on, man.
I
Help
know.
me out. Help me out here, Alex.
You had just graduated school. I don't think you were ready to just do some part-time,
Right.
like, I don't know, band side piece thing. I
Right.
think you were all in. And so I think that probably gave everyone the energy to be like, okay, let's do this.
It's like, well, yeah, it's like, you know, the thing, it's like when you say you're in a band or starting a band, it's like, I roll. Okay, yeah, sure.
Right.
Let's start a band.
Yeah.
It's like, so I have this degree in music that I have. It's like, I might as well just roll up and smoke it. It's like, what's the point? It's like, so like when I say I'm starting a band, it's like, oh, okay, good luck. But like, I had a different mentality than maybe some people have about it. It's like, I knew what I wanted. I knew at least an idea of how to get it. And I knew to surround myself with people that were like-minded and that had that thing. And Dan had that thing. He had that, like, I could tell, like, this is a wagon you can hitch to, for sure. And so I dropped everything and I moved to Vegas. And Dan had a brother that managed the Killers. And so, like, he had this, like, idea that it could be a possibility because he saw it happen for the Killers in Las Vegas. And so it's like, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too. And that's just the kind of guy he is too. I think, you know, I've never met anyone as ambitious and driven as that guy.
You can cut this if you want to. We can cut this out or not. But I just have to say this just because I'm friends with Robert. So what people may not know is that, you know, Robert Reynolds is an entertainment attorney, and he is the manager of Killers with Brandon Flowers. But he also helped out Neon Trees, helped them get successful as well. So there, you know, Robert kind of had that experience of helping the Killers and Neon Trees. So when Dan's coming up, it has to be, and I don't want to project this, but it just seems like it has to be that having an older brother that's helped shepherd two bands to national or global prominence can't hurt,
right?
In terms of like helping Imagine Dragons get off the ground. Yeah. Is that true, or am I just making that up?
I mean, the whole Reynolds family is
a force.
They're a force, you know, and they're driven. And so, yeah, I think that probably played a part in his mind. But to be very clear, nothing about that actually helped us.
Whoa!
Everyone hoped.
I wasn't expecting that.
Well, obviously, Bob's advice was extremely valuable in shaping us. And, you know, Dan's other brother, Mac, ended up managing us. And he's an extremely intelligent guy. And
UCLA attorney, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Bob went to NYU.
Very sharp family, very with it.
It's like, how many kids? Like 9 kids?
Yeah, 9 kids, 8
and
brothers.
they're like, you know how every like Mormon ward across the U.S. or stake has like these families that are like these anchor families that are like almost local Mormon royalty.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say the Reynolds are that in Vegas?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
But
it's still hard to be a rock star. It's still hard to be successful.
I just don't want to give a false impression that. So basically, apart from the advice and the input of certain things, any connections or any, like, you know, I know this guy. No, not at all.
What's it like? How does it happen? How does it work?
We slogged for 3 years.
Did you buy a house together? I think I heard that.
Yep.
Oh, rented.
You rented a house.
There's no money to buy a house.
So all 4 of you. Okay, so you went back to your buddies to, and you said, "Hey, come join this band." Or
yeah,
what?
yeah. So we originally moved to Vegas with Andrew and Brittany, who are our best friends. They were the drummer and the keyboard player. So they slogged with us for 2 years, and
Ben.
And then Ben, the bass player. So it was the 5 of us.
So Platzman wasn't in the band yet.
Okay, so the drummer from Berklee had joined.
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Andrew and
So
Brittany
just the
were,
bass player.
Andrew and Brittany were married.
Okay.
And they were the keyboard and the drummer, respectively.
Okay.
Or not respectively, but yeah.
Disrespectfully.
So yeah, we rented a house together and we slogged and played empty rooms for years. And,
literally?
Oh yeah, like, you know.
Like what kind of rooms?
Whenever we toured, like I remember a show we did in Salt Lake had 5 people, and one of them was a bartender, and that was like one of our better gigs because, you know, whenever we tried to go do anything outside of Utah or Las Vegas, like our first show in LA, literally nobody was there. It was our manager watching us. So we went on before doors and played for nobody on stage. Now,
wow.
So like, you know, like, yes, you know, we saw that it was possible by proxy, you know, by Dan's brothers, but practically, like, we had to do all the steps, and we never got to open for the Killers, or, like, you know, they were friendly, but not like they weren't helpful, like, hey, come do this or that. They let us use their studio, which was actually very nice of them to do. So we got to record some songs in their studio, which is pretty awesome. So thank you to them for that. But beyond that, it's like it was a completely fluke, crazy thing that we even got signed.
How did you guys make ends meet for years, paying rent and food and surviving cars, insurance, when you're just like playing to empty rooms?
Yeah, Andrew and Brittany had jobs, and they were married, so they actually worked for the Reynolds at the law office, and so they did that for part time, and then we practiced in the evenings. My parents gave me $200 every 3 weeks, and and I got to.
Were you starving?
No, I mean, not starving.
Ramen?
Yeah, ramen.
Oh, loaves of bread from Walmart with Nutella. That was like 2 of the 3 meals a day.
So some ramen was in there, maybe some rice and beans. I definitely was.
Lots of rice.
I never went hungry, but my nutrition intake was probably not optimal. I probably wasn't getting some of those vitamins and minerals I needed. But
And in those early years, what was your schedule then? Dan's not working either outside
he works
of the
law
band?
office. He worked too at the law office.
Well,
Okay.
and what you guys did was you played shows at casinos.
And well, the biggest income, because I couldn't live off $200, but we would play casinos and do half covers, half originals.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Half covers or other people, like we play like Rolling Stones and.
What would be your go-to bands for covers?
Oh, anything we liked, MGMT, Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Cars, the Clash. Just songs people would know.
80s music.
Yeah, we liked 80s music. We liked, we played some like Third Eye Blind.
Little 90s.
We even did a Britney Spears cut. I mean,
Yeah.
we did everything. Whatever was fun.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was better. It's better than working in an office.
Yeah.
It's like,
But what hours was it?
it was weird hours. They were my kind of hours.
They were like,
Yeah.
So you'd play at a
1 in the
casino,
morning.
and what would the people be doing? Would they be there to see you, or
No,
were you just background?
heavens no.
Were they pulling
Yep.
like jackpot, whatever
Oh,
they're called,
absolutely,
slot
yeah.
machine?
They were there to do everything but listen to a live band. Let's put
yeah,
that way.
it felt like a lot of people that were there on conferences and then kind of let loose at night. It was the best kind of people watching.
Okay, wait. So were you there during this time?
I was.
Okay, so we
Oh,
need to
snap.
integrate Alex back in.
I think so.
Okay, wait. So where do we go back to? Let's get Alex back in here.
So yeah, when did we start?
I mean,
When'd you meet?
We met while he was still at Berklee.
Okay. Let's go there.
Probably the last
What were you doing
year.
in Boston?
No, actually, I was at BYU,
Okay.
so he would come back to visit for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I was friends. Actually, Brittany is my best friend, so it's always so confusing to say this story. But basically, Brittany was my random freshman roommate at Deseret Towers.
DT.
Yep. And we got placed together, and we became immediate best friends. So our junior year, she marries Andrew, and Andrew is Daniel's friend from American Fork growing up, the drummer. So basically, I'm in this friend group, and so when he'd come home for holidays, we would meet. I had another boyfriend who
I
was
didn't swoop. Another example.
Didn't swoop the boyfriend.
who was also in that group. But I knew like the minute we met, it was trouble. I just felt like we kind of finished each other's sentences and
Sandwiches or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it too.
I just felt like he was a wittier version of myself. And and so it was kind of trouble, but we were just friends for probably a year at least or 2 before anything happened.
Well, because the guy you were dating had to be my really good friend too.
Yeah, there was that.
So, just
So-
to be clear, I
right.
kept my distance, just like with the band.
You were a good boy.
I was a good boy. We never talked or call each other. It was nothing like that.
Right. It was just one of those things that I met him, and I eventually saw him play. I feel like you joined the band before we actually started dating, but I felt like once I was around him, he was just a person that I knew would have to be in my life in some capacity. I didn't know if I'd get to be with him romantically or whatever, but I just felt like I had to have him. I had to have I thought his music was so incredible, the way he played. I just knew that I had to have that thing in my life in some way.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway,
So you guys broke up.
we broke up a month later, a month passed. There was just silence.
A month, I didn't do anything.
There was no swooping. A month later.
A month's pretty good, right?
That's great. Great restraint.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
And then we happened to talk, and
Right.
And you were still in Boston.
I had graduated, right?
You had
Did I
just
graduate?
graduated probably then, and came back, and a month later we just started talking, and then once we were actually together in person, we just
Sparks flew.
It was pretty immediate.
Yeah.
First day, it was like, all right,
Done. We're done.
And you hadn't been dating. You had been on cold storage, kind of.
Yeah, I dated a little bit, but only because I had to. It's like I go on blind dates, or people set up people for me, and I don't know what it was. I always knew I wouldn't meet whoever I married on some kind of like. I would be friends with them first.
Right.
I wanted to look for a friend that could be something more, and so that's exactly what ended up happening.
Enter Alex. Yeah.
So where were you in school when you guys met? Were you done?
I was finishing up my, I guess it would technically be my senior year. I was probably in that last semester when we started dating. And then that summer we were dating more seriously. So I moved to Vegas into the house.
Did you have plans, like your career dreams, professional dreams?
I was studying journalism. I was just killing it on that Daily Universe cover story after cover story. I actually did break a few stories. It was pretty entertaining. Got picked up by AP.
What kind of stories did you break?
There was some big drama between the U and BYU. The U usually does this Shakespeare show at BYU, and they made it kind of raunchy one year, and they were about to perform at BYU, and I interviewed them, and I was like, I perform at BYU, and I know, like, it was BYU was so strict for ballet. We were not allowed to wear solid black because someone complained one year that they could squint their eyes and visualize us naked. Visualize us naked.
Yeah, baby.
So like we'd have to like break it up with like a belt or something. So it was just weird. And so anyway, they were wearing like these bustiers and stuff. And so all I did was submit the photos for, the show that was coming the next week. And then this relationship that had been going on for years and years, they canceled the show. And so anyway, it was big drama.
You caused some drama.
Yeah.
You were drama follows you around.
Right.
Were you like being a troublemaker or what?
No, I felt kind of awful about it just because I was somehow involved, and I really did want to see that show at BYU and see the reactions. I was ready to go and write the next story on it, but obviously it didn't happen. But I went to the show up at the U. They did it outside at the Gardens, and it was amazing. I can't remember if it was Macbeth or what it was, but it was a fascinating interpretation of it. Yeah, so anyway, what were we saying?
So you graduated BYU.
So I'm not technically graduated. I still had one more semester.
Okay.
Because I did dance for so long, and that was so many hours of my time, but I didn't want to be a dance major. So I wanted to spend as much time as I could dancing while still doing print journalism.
Did you want to become a professional dancer, ballerina, work for a touring company?
Again, I said a little bit earlier that I had a little bit of disordered eating and things, so I knew mentally I kind of had to be done for a little bit. And we can talk about it later, but later I danced professionally with a company after taking a couple years off, just to get myself in order. But I had the intention of probably writing for some online publication, and so I first went, when we started being more serious about dating, I went and lived with Brittany and Andrew, which was a separate property, not living together. While we were dating, the back house kind of the house they were all living in. And so I could do an internship over the summer, and we could kind of date in person while he pursued the band. Then I went back to BYU for a semester, and then we, got engaged and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I was at the end of my college career, I guess.
And as you were considering Wayne for a potential husband, and nobody envisions a rock band ever being successful.
Right.
So how did that figure into, and you came from Orange County and probably a middle class or upper middle class family. What are your parents thinking, and what are you thinking about Rockstar, basically?
What were you thinking?
An aspiring
What were
rock star.
you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I'm also an artist. It's just you don't think of like, I know that feeling that when you're destined or you feel destined to do something, you just do it and you can't really control it. Like if anyone told me not to dance, I couldn't even contemplate that because that was just so a part of how I communicated and how I lived my life. And I knew the same from him from the moment I met him. So the idea of having him not do that was not even in the realm of possibility to me because I understand that feeling. And surprisingly, my parents were really supportive. Like we had
You both have rad parents.
we really do. Like we'd been dating a month and he came to visit my family over Christmas in Huntington and they got a New Year's show in Vegas like last minute and my parents just drove up with us and went to the show. My dad the whole time was like, "Whose song is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is one of their originals." And he's like, "Nah, I think I've heard it before." And I'm like, "No, Dad, they just wrote this one." You know, it's just, I think they could tell from the beginning that it was another level, you know, and that it wasn't just some kid in a band that just was kind of like avoiding real life. It was something that he took really seriously. And I don't know, it was your gift. So,
I mean, how could you resist? $500 in my bank account.
looked good.
Double it when we get married. Boom.
Yeah. So
So you were just heart led. You were just saying, I love Wayne, Daniel. I believe in what he's doing. They're good.
right.
I can't imagine my life without him.
I mean, he was constantly just, I mean, I don't know if you can tell. I don't know how our personalities are coming across in this because
Terrible.
Charming.
we're very novice.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Charming.
But
Witty. Sweaty.
Clever.
super
Intelligent.
sweaty.
I turned the AC up, by the way, so we're good.
I appreciate that.
Mobile
So
phones for the win. Smartphones for the win.
right. So he would constantly apologize, and not really apologize, just be like, "I'm a musician. I want to be doing this in some way, shape, or form, and we're probably not going to make a lot of money, but there will be food on the table," which is not just his responsibility, but I understand as a male Mormon that that's on his mind. But he just would constantly just reassure me that, you know, we may not be wealthy, but, you know, we'll be wealthy in love or whatever.
Certainly won't be wealthy.
Yeah. But, you know, it didn't matter to me. And yes, I did grow up in Orange County, but I was kind of one of the least wealthy of any of my friends. And, you know, we didn't own a home. We rented. We moved around. So it wasn't quite the ideal. I mean, not the ideal, but what you would think of an Orange County upbringing, probably. So it's not like I had a silver spoon and was expecting that. I always worked. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't even really a question. I was just head over heels. So.
And then Wayne, what did you love about Alex, or what attracted you to him?
Alex has ended up being the single greatest decision I've ever made. And as far as like a net positive choice, it's like,
Go into detail. I want to hear the next level detail.
Don't do it. I'm
Yeah,
too
do it.
embarrassed.
Do it. I want to hear it.
well, I mean, she's just like the girl I didn't know I was waiting for, really. I mean, she didn't give a crap about any of my hangups at all as a good Mormon girl. Didn't care I didn't serve a full-time mission at all. Loved my music. It's like, this is crazy. Like, this is not the norm. And, you know, I think, I don't want to just get emotional. In every aspect of my life, not only personally, but even professionally, like, you know, we can talk about this down the road, but like, there was a time when the band was in a very unsure place when Andrew and Brittany had left, and I felt like I was right. I was next, and me and Dan talked, and it's like, you know, maybe we should just quit, and just maybe just this whole thing needs to fall apart because we had been slogging for so long. And I had the kind of girlfriend or wife at the time that said, no, like, you need to keep doing this. And so, you know, she's a huge reason that I was even stayed in the band in the first place, because she believed in me. And so, not only in like every single aspect, as far as our incredible children, who I adore beyond anything, and herself, it's like in my professional life, she's as much a reason to Imagine Dragons is still a thing as anything, I think. So I owe everything to her. Everyone knows I'm nothing without her. Everyone knows that we're a pair. We go in pairs everywhere, and we're inseparable, and that is enough of that cheesiness. I'm sorry, everyone.
It was beautiful, but I'm embarrassed.
I know, that's too much. Gag.
I love it.